At its peak, Hardcore Pawn was more than just a reality show, it was a cultural phenomenon. For 9 seasons, millions tuned in to watch Les Gold turn Detroit's roughest pawn shop into must-see TV. But behind the chaos, deals, and family drama, tragedy struck. A shocking health scare nearly ended everything when Les Gold himself collapsed with a heart attack in front of the cameras. That moment didn't just rattle his family, it shook the entire show to its core. From that point on, the business was never the same, and neither was Hardcore Pawn. What other tragedy struck the Gold family, and how did it forever change the fate of Hardcore Pawn? To truly understand, we need to go back to 2010, when the show first aired. From the very first episode, Hardcore Pawn was unstoppable. Over 1.6 million viewers tuned in, and the numbers only climbed higher in the weeks that followed. Audiences were hooked on the drama, the deals, and the explosive family dynamic. It wasn't just another pawn shop reality show, it quickly became the crown jewel of the entire genre. For a while, it seemed like nothing could slow it down. But behind the booming ratings and national fame, real heartbreak was brewing. Tragedy struck the Gold family in ways no one expected, casting a long shadow over the very empire they built. And though the show remains iconic more than a decade later, the scars of those dark moments never truly healed. By the height of its run, Hardcore Pawn was pulling in more than 3 million viewers each week, and at its peak, an astonishing 4 million. It had become one of the most watched shows on truTV. But the story behind its success wasn't nearly as glamorous as the numbers suggested. The road to the top was rocky, filled with setbacks, sacrifices, and constant uncertainty about the future. For Les Gold, the man at the center of it all, keeping Hardcore Pawn alive meant making both painful sacrifices and bold decisions. Long before the cameras ever showed up, American Jewelry and Loan was just another pawn shop in Detroit, a place where people brought in jewelry, electronics, and family heirlooms in exchange for quick loans. The Gold family had built a strong reputation locally for making deals that were tough but fair. Then came a spark of opportunity, a chance to not only grow the business, but to put it on the national stage. What began as a gritty pawn shop in Detroit would soon explode into a reality TV empire. But behind every episode, the Gold family was gambling with far more than just money. Les Gold advertised during the daytime airing of the widely popular show, The Jerry Springer Show, which attracted a huge audience. The frequent commercials proved beneficial for business, drawing in numerous new clients and making the pawn shop a well-known establishment in the area during the early days of its operation. American Jewelry and Loans was established in Detroit in 1978 as a modest pawn shop. Over the decades, it expanded significantly, thanks to unwavering dedication and maintaining its reputation as a trustworthy venue for merchandise sales, item purchases, and short-term loans. After experiencing substantial growth, the Gold family's hard work was finally recognized. They decided to relocate to a more advantageous site and transition their advertising to more conventional methods. Although this choice was costly, it ultimately proved to be the best decision for American Jewelry and Loans in the long term. The new location not only provided ample space for the influx of newly referred clients but also became sophisticated enough to distinguish itself in the entire Detroit area, earning the title of the premier pawn shop over time. The upgraded location was even suitable for airing the Hardcore Pawn Shop series for 9 thrilling seasons. Some attribute the success of American Jewelry and Loans to its foundation on a family legacy, coupled with decades of training and expertise. The family has established itself as an unbeatable force in Detroit, recognized as experts in the field, and their deals have consistently proven profitable for all parties involved. However, amidst the detailed accounts of their business, a significant yet ancient aspect is often overlooked in favor of their newfound success. Long before Hardcore Pawn or even American Jewelry and Loan, the Gold family legacy had already been written in Detroit. It began with Sam's Loan Office, a pawn shop founded by Les Gold's grandfather, later passed down to his father, and eventually inherited by Les himself. This wasn't just a business, it was a family tradition, a trade passed down through generations. For Les, continuing that legacy was both an obligation and an opportunity. With relentless work and a touch of good fortune, he transformed the family craft into something far bigger. By 2011, riding the momentum of the show's growing success, American Jewelry and Loan expanded into Pontiac. The new location was prominently featured in the early episodes of Season 5 and again in Season 6, marking the start of an ambitious new chapter. According to Les Gold, this was the moment when Hardcore Pawn, and his business, truly began to turn for the better. Everything changed when independent producer Richard Dominick stumbled across one of American Jewelry and Loan's ads. Intrigued by their reputation and expertise, he decided to dig deeper into the Gold family's world. Fresh off his time producing The Jerry Springer Show, Richard was ready for a new venture, and he saw untapped potential in the pawn business like no one else had before. At the time, no one had ever attempted a pawn shop reality series. It was a gamble that could either revolutionize television or collapse before it began. For the Gold family, the idea of opening their doors to millions of viewers was daunting. They knew it would bring scrutiny, judgment, and an unpredictable spotlight on their business. Still, Richard's vision was compelling. Slowly but surely, the family warmed up to the opportunity. With each member taking on a role both in front of the cameras and behind the counters, the foundation for Hardcore Pawn was set, a bold experiment that would soon make television history. As the show's owner and father to the other two main cast members, Les was the patriarch and the voice of reason in disagreements, all the while keeping the viewership high enough to keep the show on the air. Complex transactions, his son Seth managed the marketing section and frequently participated in business decision conflicts with his sister Ashley, who oversaw the jewelry department. Leslie's wife Lily Gold also occasionally participated in these conflicts. Was shown in a few episodes helping Ashley in the jewelry section as the officer and his niece Karen Mitchell worked. Aside from the show's apparent goal, what attracted more people was the tension and unhealthy sibling rivalry between the two brothers, even though it was entertaining. Given that the three of them were more business partners than family, their relationship with Seth, Ashley and Karen may be considered one of the pivotal moments that led to the show's demise. Opinions and responses to a suggestion frequently resulted in misunderstandings that left viewers wondering if there were sibling relationships or unresolved love that caused them to become family tragedies. In Hardcore Pawn, there were inevitable to be some difficult moments after 9 successful seasons. Over the years, the Gold family and other cast members suffered a number of losses that stoked animosity, frustration, and rage, and some of them chose to leave the program on their own volition. These behind-the-scenes incidents occasionally reached a point where there was no turning back. In a bizarre turn of events, 2 employees were arrested for stealing valuables and trying to sell it to the pawn shop. While viewers hoped for a moment of reconciliation, the future of Hardcore Pawn grew with each month. Seth, Ashley and Les were initially shocked by the scenario and couldn't accept that their close-knit employees might have criminal personalities. The Golds wanted to think it was a misunderstanding and offered them the benefit of the doubt, but they were unaware that the cameras acted as an additional set of eyes. CCTV footage showed the 2 employees stealing expensive items from the store and then, in a tragic but strange turn of events, trying to return the stolen goods to their original owners without. In a devastating twist, the offender in another theft incident turned out to be someone who was totally unexpected, tainting their departure despite the fact that it was nice to see them go and realize they might be identified. Joe, a security guard who was formerly a trusted employee, was accused of engaging in questionable behavior, but there was no proof until they caught him stealing, which startled many. Joe was also defying the standards of his job and general morals. Would be an understatement, according to another worker Bobby, who disclosed that they were as near as co-workers could get while filming, and although he believed there was nothing to be concerned about, he was tragically misidentified as a cherished cast member who was well known for his attractiveness and one of the show's low points was when Rich Pyle, a likable character who had been known to work at American Jewelry and Loan for more than 25 years, abruptly left the show with little to no explanation, leaving fans to wonder what had occurred. Years and made appearances on his shows for 6 seasons. His abrupt firing was regarded by loyal fans as one of the most tragic episodes, and it should come as no surprise that despite the producer's efforts to make the show more open, American Jewelry remained a business and some things had to be kept secret for protection before Les Gold disclosed the reasons behind his decision to fire Rich. Rumors had been circulating about what transpired, and Rich was fired because he stole the audiences. His clever comebacks, jokes, and witty banter had the audience glued to him more than the main cast of the show. The producers were not happy, and when people thought about his positive relationship, they began to doubt the veracity of the report concerning Les and how he was seen as a trusted friend rather than a worker. The notion was further refuted after many learned of the many arguments the two had prior to his dismissal. A third party claimed that Rich was doing well until the show aired and Rich became popular and then started to slack off at work. He was more interested in the attention he was receiving than finishing his actual work, which led to rookie mistakes that a manager with his experience should have avoided. This resulted in low sales and huge losses. Included the sale of pricey goods for excessively low prices, the loss of an 18-karat gold piece as a result of his carelessness, and his probation. The tipping point was his publicly recorded conversation with Ashley, in which he said too many harsh things that were irrevocable and he weakened fewer. Rich, the proprietor of the business, was also discovered to have engaged in a number of fraudulent acts while he was employed there, and his transgressions were finally made public following multiple allegations of injustice and a hostile work environment against the producers. Les quickly disclosed that the profits were not adding up, and despite inquiries, Rich was determined to be mostly responsible for the losses. It was stated that Rich was stealing from the company and creating fake finance reports of sales records to make up for the losses. When the news reached the public, many were devastated, while others were incensed at his behavior and wanted him punished because Rich was in 6 out of 9. The company's credit cards were maxed out as he indulged himself with whatever he wanted. Despite knowing that he had been betrayed, the hardcore porn community never truly recovered from the tragedy that was Seasons. His disappearance was evident and he was sorely missed, but it wasn't the only scandal that affected someone on the program. David Kaczynski's unfortunate destiny in one particularly memorable instance, a customer and his girlfriend entered a porn shop and began to mimic Seth Gold. This caused viewers and bystanders to react hilariously, with many believing the client had a mental health issue. However, his girlfriend said that remarkable experience quickly turned into a tragic tragedy that told the world about one of David Kaczynski's most amusing moments. It was all an act, and he had a tendency to joke a lot in later years. When a follow-up was conducted to see how he was doing, when hardcore porn fans found out about the tragedy, David's case was investigated to make sure justice was done, but it did not. His girlfriend then shockingly revealed that David had been slain by police after being uncooperative during a domestic disturbance call. Ashley and Karen were among the few women in a male-dominated profession, yet they were always at odds with each other. In addition to the legal drama, hardcore porn was characterized by family feuds. The sibling rivalry nearly destroyed American Jewelry. There were multiple attempts to get the couple back together, but even though they were related and worked in the same company, their ongoing arguments were not kept private and occasionally were publicly presented in front of customers. Despite their skill, both ladies saw each other as rivals and suspected each other of plotting, which made it worse that Les preyed on their fears. As a result, many viewers blamed the ongoing conflict on living in a dysfunctional family. Despite being their father and uncle before becoming their boss, Ashley frequently complained about Lee's preference for anyone other than herself, including her brother Seth, receiving preferential treatment. She also claimed that she was frequently more chastised for. Apart from Karen, who occasionally appeared to have Ashley's back, Ashley had a much poorer relationship with her brother Seth. The two were known to quarrel and fight like children in the midst of the lawn store and to continuously disparage one another. While it was fascinating to watch throughout the first few seasons, viewers quickly grew impatient as nearly every hardcore porn episode featured some sort of argument and altercation that left one another crying or experiencing some sort of unpleasant drama. Frequently used social media to voice their opinions regarding the family's request for family therapy to end their animosity. In an interview, Ashley said that one of her complaints was that Seth was at American Jewelry, which she never anticipated would be close to her brother. She said that his unfavorable opinions occasionally caused her to doubt her career decision and whether working at the porn shop was worthwhile because he constantly minimized her desire to work there in favor of his goal of becoming a doctor. According to her interviews, their arguments seemed to be more about emotional matters than commercial choices, with one sibling harboring decades of resentment toward the other. Spending her life on him and witnessing him work at American Jewelry was hypocritical and a blow to her hardships. Who was primarily concerned with proving himself and refused to take into account the opinions of others. When fans realized that their differences were not resolved, they started to worry about the future of hardcore porn and American Jewelry as a business. That the sibling rivalry would force the business to fail or that they would go past their differences and carry on their generational legacy. It appeared that American Jewelry's future was probably bleak and that another porn shop would soon replace it with more cooperative owners. Ashley's exit from the show. Ashley's decision to launch her own company was also interpreted as an indication that the show was coming to an abrupt end, as it had been known to disappear for days following although she was often absent and mainly up to no good, no one ever expected when she would leave the show and never return, being the dramatizer and frequent source of conflict and conflicts for viewers. She would also throw tantrums, have major arguments with her family, or display outbursts of wrath. Were not hesitant to voice their disapproval of her personality and how she was the issue, but nobody anticipated that her resignation would be so abrupt. Many assumed that she would be less likely to prompt a dismissal, but in a shocking turn of events, Ashley. When asked why she had decided to stop things, she said that she was so sick of the constant drama and negative energy that she had decided to take some time off for herself and her family. She also mentioned that she was having health problems as a result of working too much and had little time for healthy eating and exercise, which left her overweight and unfit. Ashley was completely different after leaving the show. After a few months, she had lost some weight and appeared happy and more stylish. She was also spotted having fun with her family, which was uncommon when she worked at hardcore porn. Years later, to everyone's amazement, Ashley started her own company, Porn Chick Shopping, and developed a website that helps with the international selling of new jewelry, saying that because she was raised as a porn shop girl, she was unable to give up her craft but instead had to be adaptable with her time and schedule. According to reports, she has a huge list of clientele, including celebrities, and earns significantly more than the typical person. Despite leaving hardcore porn, Ashley has a fulfilling life as a wife and mother, but others saw her disappearance as the catalyst for the drop in true TV reality program viewership because there was no drama, verbal abuse, or light altercations. When asked when the show's season might run, longtime viewers pointed out that it was very different from recently televised porn stores with some drama. It was just porn dealings and business activities with little friction. Ashley, who was no longer a prominent cast member, claimed that since leaving, she had not tried to learn more than the bare minimum about what was going on in the show. According to reports, Ashley's departure may have been the last tragedy that sealed the show's doom. Show's renewal, the weekly reduction in viewers only grew worse, and the show's earnings started to decline since Ashley was adamant about leaving True TV after realizing that continuing to air the program would no longer be as profitable. Contract in favor of another show with a higher rating. Another rumor claimed that fans who were upset about Rich's contentious dismissal saw it as an abuse of power and decided to boycott the show. Although both theories had some merit, no one connected to the show, which caused both the employer and the staff to become extremely silent regarding the show's future and possible renewal. Another open secret that raised questions about whether a new season of the show would air was Seth's. Although there have been numerous instances of theft and employee betrayal over the years, few anticipated the owner's own son to be implicated in such a dramatic turn of events in the 13th episode of the 6th season. This was a very tragic and unpredictable betrayal of his father. Find out that Seth Gold had been trying to sell the Pontiac pawn store in secret without telling his sister Ashley or father Les. This information was a shock to the Gold family and the show's devoted audience, who had grown to love the show. Consider family dynamics to be a major component of the show. Many were shocked by the boldness of the characters, while others denied that the episode was pre-planned and that no one, especially behind numerous cameras, would do such crimes. As a result, Les Gold's faith in his kid significantly deteriorated. Les Gold's struggles within the ongoing controversy at hardcore porn even affected his personal life, and he appeared to grow more disengaged from the show than usual. He also started a string of challenges that many referred to as. Les Gold was apparently under investigation for his claimed role in the death of a businessman despite investigations, which was the reason he was unable to continue with the show. One of the major scandals was a tragic event that looked to cement the show's doom. Eventually disproving the allegations that he was a privileged killer, the harm had already been done. The ceaseless rumors and the public uproar that followed formed an impassable barrier for the show, which finally led to its cancellation during an interview. Les shared one of the scariest experiences he had with a reporter. He told how an unfortunate incident during his early years at his grandfather's store, Sam's Only Office, drastically altered his outlook on life. He said that in 1971, during a robbery attempt at the store, a police officer and a customer were killed in cold blood by the thief despite the surrounding violence. Les and his family have become what may spared and managed to go away the store unscathed. This brush with death instilled in him a fearless mindset and a profound cognizance that life ought to cease at any moment. Some other of Les Gold's heartbreaking moments at the show was suffering a coronary heart assault in the middle of filming. Earlier than the tragedy struck, Seth and Ashley had been locked in one of their typical adverse arguments with the smallest of triggers, placing off their yelling fits while their bickering raged on. Les skilled a sudden heart assault that required an pressing ride to the emergency room for care. The episode became one of the most stressful moments witnessed in the course of the display, with many fearing they had seen Les Gold's final moments. Luckily, the full-size rumor of his loss of life changed into quickly put to relaxation while evidence of his survival becomes shared on the net. No matter being a 9AF3F374C588C9DCDD1F10256FA5 and proficient parent, much less Gold become pronounced orate to suffer from Stoops or shoulder transoperative starting place Aroused primate syndrome, a circumstance that triggered him to bypass out at sudden instances. In a particularly harrowing episode of the display, viewers saw Les disintegrate suddenly as a person rushed to administer first useful resource at 74. Leslie Gold has been enjoying a low-key lifestyles together with his family and relishing his position as a grandfather to his 4 grandchildren, with the circle of relatives choosing to prioritize their private lives over the limelight. The possibilities of hardcore porn making a comeback are narrow, but debates approximately capability spin-offs from the display maintain, though the Gold-owned family has stepped lower back from the cameras. Their business, American Earrings and Loan, stays a pinnacle established order in Detroit, with recent expansions signaling its ongoing achievement. Despite his low public profile, Les Gold humorously addressed online rumors of his dying with a video along Seth, quipping, "As you may see, I am not useless." After a long time of difficult paintings and fulfilling his circle of relatives as legacy, Les Gold has decided it is time to loosen up and enjoy his closing years. What are your thoughts at the heartbreaking tragedy that happened? Hardcore porn, do you watch? There's a chance for the show to be revived. Percentage your mind in the comment phase. Bear in mind to love proportion. Subscribe and click on the notification button for updates on new films.